मुरलीधरं मुरलीमण्डितकरकमलं मुनिजनमोहनं व्यत्यस्तपादं वनमालाधारिणं प्रेमभक्तमण्डलनित्यकीर्तितं प्रेमिकवरदम् आश्रयेऽहम्. With the immense blessings of our beloved Guru Maharaj, Maharanyam Shri Shri Muralidhara Swamiji, and by the causeless mercy of Sri Madhuri Sakhi Sameta Premikavarada Thakurji, we are all relishing the intricate concepts of Sankhya Yogam as extolled by Kapila Vasudeva Muni in Srimad Bhagavatam 3rd canto. It is a wonderful dialogue between the son and his mother. And our Devahuti Mata had requested Kapila Vasudeva Bhagavan to explain the way for attaining moksha. And initially, our Kapila Vasudeva Bhagavan talked about the greatness of Satsanga, which is the means of attaining Jnana, Bhakti, Vairagya. And then, after very much clarifying what Bhakti is, our Kapila Vasudeva Bhagavan is going to talk about what is called as Prakriti Purusha Vivekam, which is the center piece of Sankhya Yoga. Sankyam has two meanings. One is Jnanam, and in Bhagavad Gita, when you say Sankhya Yogam, it actually means Jnana Yogam. In our Kapila Vasudeva Bhagavan's exposition, Sankhya Yogam actually means the yoga of enumerating the various categories, tattva, and doing the vichara of the various categories so that we can understand the separation of that which is insentient, which is Prakriti, from that which is Chaitanyam or consciousness. And that way we can develop Vairagyam. And that way, because we already have the background of Bhakti, we can also develop Jnana, or we will be bestowed with that Jnana by Guru Krupa. And hence, Jnana is Moksha Sadhana. There is no other way for Moksha but Jnana. And our Kapila Vasudeva Bhagavan starts his exposition in the chapter 26th. And 26th chapter talks about the discrimination of Purusha and Prakriti. Purusha means the individual soul, conscious soul. Prakriti is that which is everything apart from it. Anything apart from consciousness is all Prakriti. Through Sankhya Yoga, and is also going to enumerate all the categories, how all the categories are created, and what are its causes, and also the various lakshana of these categories, so that we can clearly understand, separately understand them, and hence this understanding will help us to develop jnana through viveka. And also, this is in line with the knowledge given by our Brahmaji to Narada Maharshi, and the same knowledge from Maitreya to Vidura. And our Sridhara Swami reminds us of this for a simple reason, that he wants to show that this Sankhya Yogam, this Kapila, is different from the mainstream academic Sankhya Yogam, which does not recognize Ishvara. It is different from the mainstream Sankhya Yogam, where it is saying that Prakriti or nature is itself supreme, which augurs very closely to what the current day scientists are trying to expound. This has been already discussed in our ancient past and discarded. And now scientists hold that nature is independent reality, that the cause of this whole manifested nature, which we call universe, is an independent agency called nature. So when they try to explain the origin of universe or origin of even consciousness in man, they all start by saying that it's the nature which created the conscious, which means this which is conscious came from that which is insentient. To put it in Sanskritam, which will make it even more illogical, Jadatlendi Chaitanya vandadundra. How is it possible? Chaitanyam can never come from Jadam, is what is our Sanatana Dharma position. And it also accepts that there is an eternal principle of Jadam, which is called Prakriti, which is nothing but our Bhagavan's power. The power of Bhagavan, the Shakti of Bhagavan to create, sustain and dissolve this universe is what is called Prakriti in its unmanifested form. What does manifest and unmanifest mean? Suppose there is a singer, and the singer has all the knowledge about singing, whether it is the grammar of the singing or the wonderful glamour of all these wonderful sancharas of raga, etc. He has both of it inside. But only when he is inspired or when he is triggered by somebody to sing, that singing talent which is latent in him expresses itself in form of the physical song, and hence the talent is exposed. So first, that which is the singing talent is actually latent, and only when there is a trigger, when somebody says, can you please sing a song won't come from nowhere. Obviously it has to come from the already existing talent which is unmanifested, which is unshown, which is latent, which is hidden deep inside. And that power of singing, when it is manifesting itself as a wonderful number, as a Carnatic number or a Hindustani number or any song for that matter, then manifests itself as a song. And the singing talent of this person, which was latent as that which he has as a power, the power to sing well, is actually known and understood by people only when it is manifested out in form of a physical song which can be heard by everybody through the agency of their sense organs. So that which is called manifest means that which can be perceived by the five senses, or that which can be inferred by our buddhi or intellect. And that which is unmanifested is that which is hidden inside as the power of singing in a singer. Now, if you are with me, the singer and the power of singing cannot be separated. If there is no power or a hidden talent of singing in a person, that person also cannot be called as a singer. And that power cannot exist apart from the singer. You can't separate the power of singing from the singer. And that power of singing, which results in a wonderful song which is so mellifluous to listen to, etc., is what is called as Prakriti. And since Prakriti or the power or Shakti or the latent energy of singing, etc., cannot exist apart from a conscious entity called a person, that conscious entity is called Purusha. And that Purusha who has the power of singing, which means anytime if that Purusha wants to sing, he will sing. And anytime the Purusha wants to stop the song, he can stop the song. The power does not have any hold on the Purusha. Purusha has complete hold over that power. So when he wants to sing, immediately he hums a tune, sets his Shruti or the bass tune and starts singing, isn't it? But then there are other conscious entities which are enjoying the song. The table cannot enjoy the song. The mic which transmits the song cannot enjoy the song. The one which synthesizes this voice called all your voice synthesizer, etc., cannot enjoy the song. The speaker which actually magnifies the sound cannot enjoy the song. Another conscious entity can only relish the song. All this can only manipulate, and it cannot be a bhokta. Bhokta na one which experiences the song, say bale, abla solla mudiyadhu. And when the singer sings so nicely, other Purushas are completely cast as if it were a spell, you see. So those people are completely enticed by the song. Now the song has the power over the listener, but the singer has the complete power over the singing. So within the conscious entities, we have a singer who has the power over the song, and the listeners who are completely empowered by the song. And that is the beauty of Bhagavan Sri Krishna's flute, isn't it? Bhagavan uses his flute to sing a song. Bhagavan has complete power over what type of a raga he actually is going to play in the flute. The moment he starts playing the flute, everybody, ido or adisayam kanir, the entire universe suddenly is enchanted by this wonderful playing of Bhagavan's flute. And that enchanting Bhagavan does not affect Bhagavan, because Bhagavan is the one who plays this flute. So within these conscious entities, there is a person who plays the flute, who has the control over the various tunes of the flute. And then there are people who are enchanted and overpowered by the music which originates from this singer, from this flute player, from this Muralidharan, and everybody is enticed by it. So the same Purusha, which is Chaitanyam, has two types. The one who has the power over Prakriti, which is the latent power, latent energy, and the one who is completely overpowered by the Prakriti. And that who has the control over this Prakriti is called Parama Purusha or Ishvara. The one who is bound by the Prakriti is called Jiva or the individual soul. And Prakriti plays between these two people. But the Prakriti is played by our Purusha and our Jivas are played by Prakriti. You see the difference now, though the words are same. So Prakriti has complete grip over all these Jivas until they understand the difference between the consciousness and the Jadam, which is all these manifested universe, etc. Until they get what is called as a discrimination or Vivechanam or Vivekam, a Jiva is bound by Prakriti. And the basic difference between the academic Sankhya Yoga, which is not Vedic Sankhya Yoga, by a person called Kapila Muni, and that Kapila Muni is not Kapila Vasudeva. There are two Kapila Munis in the history of our Sanatana Dharma. The Avatara Purusha Kapila Muni is talking about the Sankhya Yoga, which is our Sankhya Yoga as per Bhagavatam. And the other Kapila Muni is the Muni who is actually talking about a Sankhya Yoga where he actually says Prakriti is all powerful, which means Prakriti independently acts. And the only way for you out is you somehow get this little Vairagya and Viveka and come out of Prakriti. And he does not, the original Kapila Vasudeva Bhagavan says Prakriti is under the control of Ishvara, which is in line with Vedas. But this other Kapila Muni, which we won't accept as the Vedic Kapila Muni, says Prakriti is independent. Now do you understand these two Sankhya? Nirishvara Sankhya means there is no Ishvara to control Prakriti, which means in spite of the singer, the song automatically comes and not controlled by the singer. And they even say there is no singer at all. There is only the song, you see. And or the power of singing, you see. Which does not sound logical, because Prakriti nale nature. Nature means whose nature is a question we have to answer. Nature cannot exist independently, is Sanatana Dharma. Which is the reason why we agree with all scientific principles. Let it be evolution, let it be Big Bang, or let it be Big Bounce, or whatever theories where we have no problems with it. But we say everything is only Prakriti. There is this field of consciousness which needs to be there to control this Prakriti. Prakriti is insentient, so it doesn't have intelligence. Without that intelligence, Prakriti cannot repeat itself. There can't be an order in this universe. And that is the reason why we say there has to be a conscious principle, which is what slowly, I think, I am not sure, that so-called general theory of relativity or the quantum theory of relativity or what we call as quantum physics, I think is slowly gravitating towards all this is there. And when you split the atom, split the atom, split the atom, all this material which we see is solid material. When we go deeper and deeper and deeper, finally they say there is only space, you see. The distance between two atoms, or the distance between electron and the central nucleus, you know, the ratio is as much as the center between Earth and the Sun. If you take Sun as the nucleus, electrons are like Earth going around the Sun. That is the amount of space which is there even in the most, in the proportion of space, in the subatomic particle. And then finally they say space is not idle, space is not empty. There is some intelligence in space. And that's what our Sa Ishvara Sankyam, which completes the Nirishvara Sankyam, because the Nirishvara Sankyam is only telling us a part of the truth. The manifestation of the truth is what it is talking about. And if you have to go and understand the unmanifest, that hidden power, latent power, etc., then we have to come to Seshvara Sankyam, which is what our Kapila Vasudeva Bhagavan is proposing. And there he says that which is conscious, and conscious entity needs to be the one who has the control over Prakriti or these insentient principles of nature. The nature has to be under the control of the person. The nature has to be under control of an conscious entity. That which controls this nature, which is immanent in nature. Every word of a singer has the signature of the singer. Na? So every word, every tune which emanates from the singer has the sign when he sings, isn't it? So when you say, idudha Seshagopalanoda signature, MLV oda signature, solron liya, which means the singer is inseparable from the song which is emanating from him, because the power of singing is completely under the control of the singer. And that which is immanent, that which is interspread within Prakriti is what we call consciousness. So for us, as per Bhagavatam, our consciousness or Bhagavan is not an extra universe person. He is not an extra cosmic entity. He is immanent in this. In fact, he is expressing himself in this whole world. Once you take the veil of all this Prakriti, what remains is only consciousness, which is what we call as Bhagavan. And that immanent consciousness, which is, how do I use it, which is pretty much interspread in all we see, what we do, etc., where there is no place where consciousness is not. And because anything which is jadam has to rely, jadam na insentient, has to rely on the adharam, it has to rely on the substratum of consciousness, we say God is omnipresent. Not in the sense of a person is seeing everything, etc., but in the sense that consciousness is omnipresent. And now at least let us accept this. Then we will go to Saguna Nirguna, which takes a little more of spiritual intelligence to get there. You see? So here, that's the reason why the second line. Our Sridhara Swami just wrote the second line, and so much story is there encompassed in that second line. It says, this is in line with the knowledge given by Brahma to Narada Maharshi, which means this Sankhya Yoga is a Sankhya Yoga which is related to Bhagavata Dharma. This Sankhya Yoga is not Nirishvara Sankhya. Later days, another Rishi came. We should call him Rishi only because he has done Tattva Vichara. Not the Vedic Rishi, but his name is Ishvara Krishnani. He came in the historic times. And he has expounded Kapila Sankhyam, which is the academic Sankhya, which does not approve of a conscious principle as controlling Prakriti. Everybody, see, whether it is Sanatana Dharma's anti-God stance of science, even they had the sense to separate conscious and unconscious, you see. But the only problem is they wanted to bring even the consciousness under Prakriti. And so they used even the words, it's called Chora. They actually robbed some of the Vedic verses to interpret it as if it is their view of the truth which even Veda says. So they robbed a few verses from Gita, and they robbed a few verses from Shvetasvara Upanishad and said, this is what Veda also says, so make it a Vedic. But then, people hijack even language. I believe Sanskrit is also being hijacked by some people, where they are reinterpreting some words to make it a little dull to our Sanatana Dharma. So it is not new, by the way. Even philosophy has been hijacked before. And our Sankhya, our Ishvara Krishna and Kapilar, which is the academic Kapilar, not the Avatara Purusha Kapilar, hijacked some verses of Veda saying, it is our Mata which is told in Vedas. There are some faiths apart from Sanatana Dharma who have hijacked Purusha Sukta to say it is their Dharma which is shown there. So hijacking Vedas shows two things. One, they all realize the supremacy of Vedas, so they are trying to put their, dovetail their philosophy somehow inside. And second thing is, hijacking is not new. It has been happening for a long time. And here, Mahatmas very beautifully blocked that hijacking to make sure we protect the Moolam. You see, that's very important. Na? Even if some people oppose Vedas, even that is better, I would say, rather than somebody trying to corrupt Vedas to say, this is what Vedas are saying, actually. And that's why Mahatmas came, every now and then they come to protect the Moolam. The source has to be protected, isn't it? So here, the Moolam is this. The Moolam is Nirishvara Sankham, which is not accepting Ishvara. Ishvara Nale, it is called Sambandhi Sabdam. Ishvara, what does Ishvara mean? One who controls, one who has things under control. Ishitvam is there, Isha. And what it really means is this. For example, if you say father is coming in, you have to say whose father now. You just can't say father is coming. Whose father? You have to say so and so's father is coming in, because the word father is a relative term. That's why in some Sanskritam, Sambandhi Shabdam. It is related to something else. So when you say Ishvara, Krishna is Ishvara, then the question comes, Ishvara for who? Whom is he controlling? Pradhana Purusheshvaraha. Then Ishvara Shabdam is complete. Only, that's why whenever people sing, hey Ishvara na, you have to complete that sentence to say who's Ishvara. You can say Ma Jiveshwaran, or you can say Prakriti Ishwaran, or you can say Sarveshwaran. And only then the word Ishvara is complete, isn't it? So here, Nirishwara Sankhya means it also accepts there is something called Chaitanyam, there is a way to be happy by dissociating ourselves with that which is insentient, all that they accept. But then Ishvara is, the word Shabda Ishvara is not there for a simple reason that they say Prakriti is independent. Prakriti is a adangada plari mari akitada. You see, Prakriti is not independent, Prakriti is completely under the control of Ishvara. And our jivas are also not swatantra, they are under the complete dependency on Ishvara. So that's why in our Sahasranama we say Pradhana Purusheshwaraha. So since it is said Purusheshwaraha, the word Purusha in Sanskritam you have to be careful. Context is very important. That is the reason why it is so much malleable to so many interpretations. Because when you say Purusha, Namaste, Purusham. You know, when our Kunti Devi is saying Purushana, obviously she is not doing Namaste to all these jivas there. You see? And so when she is saying Purusha, she is talking about Ishvara, because the word Purusha can mean both Jiva and Ishvara depending on the context. So when you say Pradhana Purusha Ishvaraha, there obviously Purusha and Ishvara is separate, na? So Purusha means Jiva, and one who controls or one who has them under his dependence is called Ishvara. And Pradhana is a very classical term given to Prakriti as per Sankhya yogis. So Pradhana Purusheshwaraha. This is our Sankhya Tattvam as per Bhagavata Dharmam. This is the Sankhya Tattvam. You see? And that's why he has written this Sankhya Tattvam, which our Kapila Vasudeva Bhagavan is saying in the 26th chapter, is in line with Lakshmi Natha Samarambam. It is a Vedic knowledge given to Naradar by Brahma and Maitreya to Vidurar. There he is very beautifully saying, since this is Vidura and Maitreya Samvadam, he is trying to say from Bhagavan two sampradayas of Bhagavata Dharma has emanated. One is through Brahma, Naradar, and Naradar went to Vedavyasa Bhagavan. Vedavyasa Bhagavan is inspired by Naradar, not instructed, inspired, because Vedavyasa Bhagavan is Bhagavan. Bhagavan does not need anybody to teach him. Somebody comes and remind him as a Leela, saying that you are here, you have to do Bhagavatam. Out of Samadhi only Vedavyasa Bhagavan gave Bhagavatam. Vedavyasa Bhagavan gave it to Shukamuni and the like. You all know that. The second one starts from Shankarshana Bhagavan. And Shankarshana Bhagavan gave it to a Rishi, who gave it to a Rishi, who gave it to a Rishi, and it goes via Parasharar, Maitreya and Vidurar. You see, it comes like that. So here he is saying, this knowledge which we are talking about, Sankhya Yoga, is in line with both the lineages of our Bhagavata Dharma, which emanated from Bhagavan only, Bhagavata Proktam, and this is in line with Brahma to Naradar, that lineage also, and right now we are saying Maitreya to Vidurarna, that lineage also. So this is an authentic common Vedic lineage. The beauty with our Shukamuni telling this Bhagavatam is he is not only telling his lineage of Bhagavata Dharma, he takes 2 cantos to move out to tell the other lineage to give its authenticity also. That is the beauty of Shukamuni's breadth. Instead of saying what my father told is only Sampradaya, he didn't say like that. He wanted to show anything which Bhagavan starts is also a genuine Sampradaya. And so in the 3rd and 4th canto, he sort of sidestepped and said, I am going to tell you this Bhagavata Katha of 2 cantos because I respect the other branch of that Sampradaya also. The other branch came through Maitreya, Parasharar, Maitreya, and so here he is telling that Sampradaya also. Sanakadi Rishis lindu vardat. And so our Kapila Vasudeva Bhagavan says, this is the knowledge given by Brahma to Naradar. What is this knowledge? Brahma gave only 7 slokas, 4 important main slokas of Bhagavan's Upadesam, called Chatusloki Bhagavatam, 2 above, 1 below. You see, 2 serves as an introduction to the 4 slokas given by Bhagavan, and 1 is just the Palasruti of listening to this Chatusloki itself. And so what that Chatusloki says is very simple. That is the beauty of Bhagavatam. Once a Mahatma was asked by a person, in your religion is there 1 God or 330 million gods, or there are 2 gods, or how many gods are there? And he asked, how many gods are there in your religion? He says, in our religion there is only 1 God. Oh, he said, our religion has 1 word less. In our religion there is only God. Finish. You see, there is nothing else. Vedyam Vastavam Atra Vastu abdingarthukku Sridhara Vyakyanam is, There are only three vastus, but the way in which Bhagavatam shows these vastus are beautiful because it shows only Bhagavan everywhere. Vasudeva Sarvamiti is the base on which the entire Bhagavatam is built, because Bhagavatam itself is Bhagavan. So the one who is actually an individual soul is an Amsa, or a portion or a particle of Bhagavan, so inseparable. You won't separate Amsa and Amsina. You don't say this hand, this little finger out there is not me. You say it's a part of me. Dhunanda. So when you say, who are you? You say this. Na? So the one who points is also me, and that which is pointed is also me. So I am using me to point me here. So here Amsa, Amsi, Abhedam. A portion and the whole are not different, na? Indifferent. So in the sense they say all the jivas are the Amsa. Mamevamsho jiva loke jiva bhutas sanatanaha, says Bhagavan. So in the sense that Bhagavan is the Amsi and we are all portions or particles dependent on him, Amsa Amsi Bhavatnala, there is only Bhagavan. What about Prakriti? Prakriti is his creative power, and you can't separate a power from the powerful person. Shakti Shaktimat Abhedena Ekatvam. Because the person who is singing, the singing power of a singer cannot be separated from the singer, and so there is Abhedam there. And so they say the creative power or the nature is indifferent from Bhagavan, because nature is the nature of Bhagavan. You can't separate a person and the nature. Nature does not exist independent of the person. So nature is the person. Abdine we can say. Why? Shakti, Shaktiman, Abhedam. And then, what about this universe? He says, Karya Karana Abhedam. You see, when you have this wonderful pot made, what is this pot? Apart from mud, show me a pot. Can you show me? Apart from mud, which is what, or clay, which is what the pot is made of. I don't want to take the clay out of the equation. Where is the pot? Not possible at all. So the pot is actually clay only, you see. And so the Karana and the Karya, that material cause interpenetrates the effect also. Na? It is there, present all through the effect. In that way, effect and cause are inseparable. So this universe is the effect of a cause called Bhagavan. And the power of the universe called nature is nothing but the Shakti of Bhagavan. That which sees this nature, which is what we call Jiva, is nothing but Amsam. Amsam, na? It's a particle of Bhagavan. And so, Vedyam Vastavam Atra Vashtu Shivadam. This is what Bhagavatam shows. Look at Vasudeva everywhere. And our Sankhya Tattvam will also help us to actually wade through this wonderful concept of how do I see Vasudeva everywhere. When I see the world, idu Bhagavan Padacha Ulagam. Immediately Bhagavan is remembered. Na? The moment we say this Srishti, we say Srishtikarta is Krishna. Finish. Even the Srishti is actually reminding us, and we see the Srishtikarta in Srishti. The second thing is Srishti in Srishtikarta. And the second thing is, I am seeing this world. Who am I? I am a child of Krishna. Amsana child. So the moment even myself, I have a relationship with Bhagavan. And this power to create everything, what we call Yarkai, what we call as nature, Prakriti, Bhagavan's Shakti, Devi. So Prakriti is Bhagavan Shakti. That's why whenever we do Lakshmi's Archana, first is Prakriti Namaha, Vikriti Namaha, Bhagavan was Shakti Path. And just like how Lakshmi is inseparable from Bhagavan, Shakti is also inseparable from the Shaktiman, which is Chaitanya. And just like Jivas are all in the Srivatsamaru of Bhagavan, Jivas or Amsa is inseparable from Amsi. Ella Alaga Sagunama Pakumboda Attanaikum or Rupam. You see. And if you want to see it as Tattva, because we are seeing Kapila Vasudevan, we understand the Tattva. And Tattvama Pakumbodhu, we have to understand it as principles. In Saguna Upasana, Adu Satya. Paravasudeva's wonderful form with Srivatsamaru, Srivat Sangitam, and with all his wonderful three consorts of our Neela Devi, Sri Devi, Adala Satyam. If you see it as Tattvam, you can see it of all this right here. Right? So that's what is the knowledge Bhagavan gave to Brahma, which Brahma gave to Narada Maharishi in the second canto. And so it is exactly in line with that knowledge, and so it is not Nirishvara Sankyam, it is called Seshvara Sankyam. This is a Sankhya which accepts and understands the truth, which is there is a Ishvara. Prakriti or nature is not independent. The moment I say Seshvara Sankhya, the natural question is Ishvara of whom? You see, who's Ishvara? Prakriti is Ishvara, Jiveshwaran. That's why some of our deities are also named as Jiveshwara by our Swamiji. And for a great Mahatma in Srirangam, about 80 years back, our Ranganatha Swami, our Srinivasa Perumal himself said, Aham Jiveshwaraha. And that is since the Mahatma got it from Bhagavan himself, Ranganatha Swami himself, our Srinivasa himself, that is the necklace which our Srinivasa, Kalyana Srinivasa Perumal is wearing. Srinivasa Perumal sonnathu. That Aham Jiveshwaraha. So if you go to our temple next to our ashram, that Kalyana Srinivasa Perumal is wearing the wonderful Salagrama Malai, which a wonderful pendant which says Aham Jiveshwaraha. That Aham Jiveshwaraha is the word given by Bhagavan himself to this contemporary. There are people who have lived with him, served him, and he lived in his physical body about 30 years back, 40 years back he was there. And that is the Mahavakyam, I guess, given by Bhagavan himself to him. And so Ishvara means Jiveshwaran or Prakriti Ishwaran. And since Jiva and Prakriti corresponds to everything which is in the world, Maheshwaran, Parameshwaran, Param Ishwaran. Parameshwaran Nartham. That he is the Lord, one who controls, or one who is completely in the control of both Jivas and Prakriti and nature. So that is the second line here. So Bhagavan says, Atate sampravakshyami tatvanam lakshanam pratak yat viditva vimuchyeta purushaha prakritehi gunaihi. Now, we already saw the Atha Shabdam last time. Now that you understand Bhakti, you are ready. Because without Bhakti, if we read Vedanta, it will become dry. It won't give that prayojana. Because Vairagyam and Jnanam are the children of the mother Bhakti. Mother is Jnana Mata. Our Bhakti is Jnana Mata. Our Vairagyam is the child of our Bhakti Devi. So first mother has to come before the children are brought forth, isn't it? So here first thing is Bhakti is taken care. And now for you to complete the rest, that Bhakti itself will lead you to Jnana and Vairagya. I will tell you how. And Vairagya means unless I understand the separation between that which is insentient and that which is conscious, unless I separate the Prakriti nature from consciousness, I am going to be bound by Prakriti. So I am going to explain you Purushaha, Prakritaihi, Gunaihi. So I shall tell you one by one the distinctive features of the different categories, by knowing which anybody, a soul, is freed once for all from the clutches or the yoke, the cycle of the modes of Prakriti, which is gunas of Prakriti. You have different gunas. Generally we say 3 guna, Sattvam, Rajas, Tamas. Anything in the nature is categorized as either Sattvam, Rajas or Tamas. So a person who understands these separation between Prakriti and Purusha can completely transcend the hold of Prakriti and become Muktan. Muktan from Samsara. Samsara Muktan. We need a little more clarity in this screens when I do the rest of the slides. So whenever possible, possibly next week, we'll continue with it when this transmission is far more of a better quality than this, and we'll continue that next week. Sarvatra Govindana Sankirtanam Govinda Govinda Sadguru Maharaj ki Jai.